Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, back in New York City, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Josh Mansfield. Josh, I'm actually back. I'm not wearing sunglasses.
Welcome back stateside.
Thank you. Australia is a crazy place. Have you been there?
I've not. Well, what was the best thing that you did while you were there?
I think my favorite part was all of the crazy plants and animals that are totally foreign to the US. So like obviously stuff like kangaroos, wallabies, koalas, saw all of those in the wild, which is pretty sweet. But also just like weird birds, crazy plant life. I went to the oldest rainforest on Earth.
Really? I didn't know that was in Australia.
The Daintree rainforest at the very northeast corner of Australia is 175 million years old, I think.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's the old rainforest.
Old. But yeah, it's the natural beauty there and the wildlife. Definitely my favorite part. Otherwise, it feels like you're in a weird annex of the United States where they drive on the left.
Okay, so it just wasn't different.
I don't
Otherwise,
know.
No.
I've never been a place that felt less different from the U.S. that was a foreign country.
Huh.
It feels more like you're somewhere else if you go to Puerto Rico, which is technically
a United
USA.
States. Yeah. I never would have guessed that.
It's like a combo culture that blends British and American culture.
I mean, that makes sense then why it would feel so similar.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. I like it.
Sure.
It's just like, don't go there expecting like, wow, it's going to be super different. I mean, the wildlife for sure is.
Right. So if you want to go to Australia, go for the outdoor wildlife.
And you can go because you want a familiar feeling place that is still somewhat different.
Listen, I think there is a lot to be said about traveling somewhere where you speak the language.
It is a different kind of thing.
It is.
You can more fully immerse.
Yep.
And feel less like you're just a tourist.
Yeah.
So, but you know, being excited about kangaroos makes you look like a tourist because they're like, it's like deer.
Right.
You can buy kangaroo meat at the store.
Did you try any?
I did.
How was it?
It was pretty good.
Okay.
Of course, I didn't know what to expect.
Sure.
I would say, so it's very, very lean. You have to marinate it a lot and you have to serve it rare. Otherwise it gets very tough, but served rare tastes like steak.
Oh, okay.
I think you'd have a hard time differentiating it from like just a regular cow steak.
A steak.
If you didn't know.
As long as it's prepared properly.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Is it cheap?
I don't know.
Okay.
I had it in a restaurant, so I didn't. I assume it's cheap because there's so many kangaroos.
That's what I'd assume too.
But they're protected, so I don't quite know. It's kind of like a problem in Australia because they're like a protected species, but they like run rampant.
Yeah. And
they cause a lot of car accidents. So I don't know. Interesting thing. I'm sure we'll hear from our Australian listeners.
I hope so. I'm all sorts of confused
now. Anyway. Back in the States, back to a 2-show-a-week schedule, getting ready for the DGPT playoffs that start this coming weekend. We'll, of course, get you all ready to go. I guess that tournament starts on Thursday, so we better be ready to do something tomorrow, Josh.
We need to record tomorrow, yeah.
That's what's happening. GMC coming up this weekend, and then Maple Hill after that. I just got a text from Steve Dodge. Lots of changes at Maple Hill. So I got to have Steve on, I think, to talk about what's going on.
Listen, I think Steve made changes just so that he can make sure to come on and talk about it on the podcast.
People were freaking out about the covered bridge on hole 1. When that got kind of like leaked online 6 months ago. But what else? I don't know. I really just don't know. But I like that there's people pushing for progress all the time.
Yes. No one has accused Steve Dodge of being boring, that's for sure.
No. All right. We got a good one today. We're going to dive into some data, some charts, and talk about the state of disc golf a little bit more. This has been kind of an ongoing theme over the last few months, talking about some of the declines we've seen in sales, in spectator numbers, But we're going to kind of look at that a little bit more from a couple of different angles and discuss. But first, we want to check in on this weekend's golf. We had some pretty impressive performances this weekend. And why don't we start with the Q Series event, Innova's The Rip, up in Canada, where Gannon Buhr absolutely mopped the floor with everyone. He wins by 12 strokes, Josh. And not only that, but he averages 1087 through 3 rounds. It's the second highest event rating through a 3-round tournament ever in PDGA history.
Well, I mean, come on. Gannon was just beating up on some, fairly unknown up-and-comers, like, I don't know, Isaac Robinson and Ezra Robinson, who round out your podium. Yeah, beats your world champion by 12 strokes. He put on quite the performance this weekend, that's for sure. It's one, when you take and I haven't seen any coverage, I don't know the course at all, and so you always have to take it with a grain of salt when it's on properties and in tournaments that don't have the same kind of fields. But listen, a 1087 with the kind of talent that was in this field, regardless of what kind of course it was on, that is an impressive feat. And he did it with an OB stroke as well. Like, he stays clean. He could have been even more impressive in that final round, which was a 1094 rated final round, just laying it on.
Crazy. I mean, when he's dialed, he's unbeatable.
He is.
I genuinely don't think that. I think his ceiling is the highest right now. I don't know who can beat him. I mean, I think the answer is Anthony Barella, because we literally saw it when Gannon went crazy in that final round in Houston, and AB still held on to win.
Yep.
But like, that's the list. I just genuinely don't know that it's possible to beat him when he's like dialed like this.
Yeah. It was a remarkable performance. And it's one that, I mean, he's about to go into 2 more 4-round tournaments.
Like, let me ask you this.
Okay.
What percentage of players in their life shoot a 1087 rated round? Just one.
A 1087 rated round.
Yes, single round. Like, how many people have ever done that in PDGA history?
It has to be like 0.5%.
Yeah, less than
if that. Yeah.
I think the total number of people who've shot a round that hot is probably like under 100.
Probably.
I don't know. I don't have a good way of looking that up right now, but that's a single round. He averaged that. Now, I don't know. To be fair, the memorial exists.
I was about to say, cut out the memorial, and that number is probably like
it's cut it by 75%.
That probably is. Oh man, but you're right. I mean, you're right. It's how many, whether you cut it in the event rating or his round rating, 1094. How many players are going to shoot at 1094 and not at the memorial?
Yeah,
10.
It's exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, and this is like a true 1087 performance, right? Like, if you beat somebody who's playing great and is a tremendous pro and the reigning back-to-back world champ by 12 strokes when he was playing well, which he was, I think he averaged like 1055 or something
1058.
like that. 1058. Like, that's good.
That's great.
And he got smoked by 4 strokes around. Crazy. I mean, to be fair, how about this stat? Isaac went 26 for 27 inside C1 and still lost by 12.
Gannon almost didn't need to show up for round 3. He shot a 13 down in round 3. If he had gotten his first birdie on hole 1, he could have taken the rest of the round off and then come back for the playoff. Like, incredible performance from Gannon.
Wild stuff. Shout out to Rebecca Don, who wins an FPO.
Mm-hmm.
She is, I believe, 16 years old. She's 899 rated, but she shot a 976 event rating.
That is a legit event rating.
She finished 3rd at Junior Worlds U18s. I think that she will likely be a Junior World Champion in the next 2 years. And you never know. Maybe a name of the future on the Pro Tour.
Yeah, wins by 16 strokes. Not a lot of names that you'd recognize here, but I mean, really just a spectacular performance from Rebecca Dawn, especially considering her age. So, definitely an impressive Canadian to keep an eye on as she continues through the junior ranks.
All right, I've got a Q Series update for you.
Okay.
So the Q Series, reminding people, is a way for players who are coming up to earn points and get a Q Series, to get a tour card for 2025. So I believe, it's kind of complicated because if you earn a tour card via the DGPT World Standings, then you don't play in the Q Series tournaments. So like if you've already earned a 25 tour card, it doesn't, there's all these various caveats.
Right.
But let's just look at the list right now. GT Hancock is at the top of the list right now. Nicholas Gill, Connor Rock, Paul Kranz, and Chandler Kramer currently top 5 in the Q Series standings. So, of course, some of these people already have a tour card.
But they're probably, from World Standings, going to get tour cards.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the bold names... Yeah, so the italicized names... I'm looking at the Statmanda website.
Right.
So, like, people who are not in position right now via World Standings. Nicholas Gill, Paul Kranz, Harry Chase, some kind of a surprise here, Drew Gibson.
Oh.
Austin Bates, Nick Robertson, Nolan Ramser, Connor O'Reilly, Bo McLaughlin, Jason Lawson. So it's going to be interesting if we see some kind of names on tour who have to who maybe end up going to the Q Series tournament to try to get their tour card for the following year.
Interesting.
Could happen, I suppose.
Yeah.
Over on the FPO side, Vanessa Van Dyken is first on the list, but she is in qualifying position in the world standings right now.
Okay.
Emily Yale, friend of the pod, number 2. Hannah Stefanovic, Kelly Foster, Métis Camacho. I don't know how to pronounce the first name, but Jennifer Smiley, Rebecca Dawn, Madeline Davis, Lindsay Moss, Leah Sinagini.
Okay.
Some names there.
And those players will go to a Q Series finale, right?
If they want to, right?
If they want to.
Yeah. I think you could get in by being in the top chunk of the Q Series standings, or you can get in by doing well at the Q Series finale.
Got it.
So there you go. Shout out to the people who are working their way towards a tour card.
Yeah.
What else do we have this weekend? We had Canadian Nationals.
We also had Canadian Nationals. Yes, that's correct. For the first time since Elaine King, a Canadian won the FPO Canadian Nationals.
Is that right?
Yes. It's been nearly a decade because the likes of Paige Pierce and Ella Hansen and Raven Klein most recently have gone up and taken that title back across the border. But Sophia Deneke came back, kept it for the Canadians. Wins with a 17 down, just one stroke.
What a come up.
Yeah. So
Sophia just out of nowhere, balls out and is now the best Canadian player. It's wow.
So congratulations. Thomas Gilbert cleans house on MPO and wins his title there.
He was not the highest rated player there. Max Regitnig was. Max finished 3rd.
Yep.
Casey Hannemeyer finished 2nd. So cool to see for Thomas Gilbert, who shot pretty darn good golf. I think he averaged in the around 1050.
Yeah, 1053.
And would love to see him pick it up.
I think Thomas always makes time in the schedule to go back and play this event. I think it's a pretty important one to him, which it makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, the highest profile touring Canadian
He's
MPO
got
player.
the ceiling, Josh. I mean,
I know.
Top 10 at European Open this year.
I know. We've said that for years, though. I mean,
That's true.
Do you remember
the guy can throw it a mile.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a putter, big problem.
Yeah.
Big problem.
Yep.
But good to see him playing well. And so no real surprise, I would say.
I agree.
Like, those are the best players in Canada, and they both won.
Yep.
All right. Of course, we've got the pro scene kicking back up this weekend with GMC. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. But now we're going to turn our attention to...
Real quick, one last thing. Sorry. But I couldn't let you forget this again because I know you've been wanting to talk about it. Josiah from our Discord gave us a stat. Yes, about Gannon. Just was checking our notes and saw this. Gannon has passed both Simon and Eagle for most career winnings at an Elite Series and Majors, and moves to 4th all time on that list. This is not career earnings; it's just Elite Series and Major career winnings.
Now, what's crazy about this is that he didn't even cash at an Elite Series or a Major until 2021. Eagle started cashing in 2015 and Simon in 2009. Now, obviously, winning more now is a lot better than winning more 10 years ago.
Right.
Because the money is just completely different level, right? It's like massive increase in purses, but it's still shocking because it's not like Simon and Eagle are like no longer playing.
Right.
Like,
right.
They're still relevant winning players. And still, Gannon has just rocketed up the charts. And in fact, this post from Josiah is from early August. So he's added to that since then. He's now 4th all time.
Gannon, if Gannon plays well at the Pro Tour Championship, he's going to put together a season that might not just be broken next year, which it feels like the season earnings gets beat year after year after year as purses go up.
Yeah. I mean, it is realistically possible that he could get to 200K this year.
Crazy.
We don't know the payouts for the GPG Championship yet, but with the events coming up, you're going to be looking at 15-ish K,
right,
for winning these playoff events probably.
What's he at the season?
At least 12. He's at 127 right now. And then you've got USDGC, which what did that pay out last year? Probably like 25. I'm checking right now. It was 30. Alpine won 30K last year. So with the amount of money left on the table, Gannon doesn't even have to sweep to be considered a realistic 200K earner this year.
Wow.
Just in tournament earnings. That's pretty amazing.
That's incredible.
Because like the record, well, it was Kristen who got to 100K first, right? Or maybe Ricky got there first and then Kristen passed him.
I think Missy hit 100K actually.
Did Missy in Big Money Missy's season
hit 100K?
I think so.
Yeah, I think she did.
Wow. That's pretty sick.
I think Missy was the first. Well, I don't know. Maybe Paul had done it before.
I don't think you're right.
Nope, I'm not. 94,000.
94,975 in 2023, and that wasn't even her
biggest
big year, right? That was just last season when she won the Tour Championship and finished 2nd at Worlds.
Right. Yeah, no.
But Ricky and Kristen both eclipsed 100K.
Yeah,
I think 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago. And then who broke the record last year?
Kristen
broke her own record. So Kristen's record last season was 116,247.
And that's
and again, Gannon is sitting at 127 right now.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah, what did Ricky do last year? It wasn't even last year that he eclipsed 100K. That was in 2022 where he did 105.
Right. That was the year that he got there and then Kristen got there or maybe vice versa.
Right.
So, yeah, Ricky, what did Ricky do last year? He probably came close to that number again.
83,000.
Oh, not as much as I thought.
And that's with a 40K payout for the Pro Tour Championship.
Yeah, he's sitting at 87 right now, so very good chance he's going to get to 100.
Yeah.
Okay. We turn our attention to a story that's been bubbling around online. And Jonathan Ray, who's a longtime TD, runs a lot of tournaments, including the 2020. Well, not going to be happening this year, or maybe it's going to get sort of resurrected by players, but he runs the Masters at Bud Hill in Tennessee. It's kind of like one of the most important age protected, I guess we're not supposed to call it that anymore. I don't know what we call it. Age-based divisions.
Oh, do we not call it age protected anymore?
I don't think so.
Oh.
It's like age-based is what you're supposed to say.
Interesting. Okay, I did not know
but
that.
we all was right. So like 40, 50-year-old folks. If pro only, like nice payouts, great course, whole deal. It's like a big tournament. And he posted on Facebook a day or two ago. I don't exactly know when. And we'll put it up on the YouTube version so you can read it. He said, I am broken and embarrassed to have to tell you all this. I am canceling the 2024 Masters at Bud Hill. I tried every way I could think of to salvage this, and I alone am responsible. I used Masters money to fund events and vending fees in the beginning of the season after not working through the winter. I've done this each year, and as the season goes on, the money gets replaced. That was not the case this year. Through some personal medical issues, higher costs, and much lower participation in our sport, I just couldn't catch up. It has been a horrible financial year, bad enough that I'm having to file for bankruptcy. And basically says he's going to work to repay everybody, but it won't happen overnight. Says he's working on liquidating inventory and will begin refunding when that happens. It will not cover everyone, but I will continue getting them out as quickly as I can. People had been asking for just sort of standard refunds for dropping out of the event for the last like at least 3 weeks and like getting ghosted. And obviously people are pissed. I would say the Facebook post was made on the Bud Hill Masters Facebook page, and the comments are fairly supportive. I mean, I think Jonathan, I don't know him. I don't think we've ever spoken, but he's a well-respected TD, and I look at this, Josh, as another casualty of the disc golf market decline that has caught a lot of people unprepared.
I think that's a great point. It obviously is one, he talks about how he's done it in previous years. And it's definitely, it's changed the way with COVID, when it went from a case of like tournaments, especially were in such high demand where they were getting filled in minutes, and like, it became very easy to consider tournaments as being a reliable source of revenue, and that's just not the case. And so when you and the bigger problem of this, right, is not, I think this is just a drastic example, but I know of TDs who have looked at like typical amenities, things like renting out bathrooms, food vendors, what have you, for tournaments. And regardless of how many people you have come, there are base level costs for those amenities. And they are finding that tournaments are not having registration to the level that properly accounts for both payout as well as amenities. And that's creating a real financial strain on tournaments and the level of amenities that we've come to expect at tournaments during COVID times when and post-pandemic boom times when tournaments were full and you had all the cash flow in the world to run those tournaments. This is... For reference, though, this is a ton of money we're talking about here. We did the math, almost $27,000, and that's with some people having already withdrawn. So we're just going on current registered player numbers and the entry fee of $150.
Yeah, and that assumes that people on the wait list haven't paid, and I don't actually know whether they have or not, which would, that would put it well over $30K if people had to post money on the wait list. Yeah, it's obviously a bad situation. It is at least plausible that there could be legal action. I kind of wonder how the PDGA is going to treat the situation, because ultimately this is a PDGA event, and like people are paying money to play in a PDGA event, and like who's financially responsible for providing refunds? Like I obviously, I think you can make the case, and I don't know what the PDGA rules sort of stipulate about this particular situation, but I could see a case to be made that it's like, well, this is on the PDGA. Like, they have to be having oversight of these events, and like they owe the money back to people, and then they have to get made whole by Jonathan. You know, the way the post is written, it does seem to imply potentially that some of the money was used for personal use. Like sort of like talking about medical issues as a part of like the overall post.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you using that money to pay for your personal medical stuff? Like, and to me, this just gets into like the murkiness of disc golf business operations in many cases. Like, it is not out of line. Like, for instance, let's say Jonathan has set up a sole proprietorship business operation or has an LLC or something like that, through which he runs all of his disc golf business.
Right.
This money comes in for his disc golf business, and then he's using that money to do things in his business, which includes running other tournaments. That's not illegal.
No, that makes sense.
And he can go bank. He could liquidate his business, and like, too bad, people are just out the money. That's a risk you take when you engage with any, you know, business, basically.
Right.
There's always a chance that they could go under and you're going to be out your money, or you're not going to get your Kickstarter product or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a lot more of a gray area and possibly illegal if that money is being misappropriated for personal use. And it's like fully entwined between personal and business usage. Like, fundamentally, using money that you got for an event in the future to pay for stuff that you're going to run events now, and you're just running business operations. Like, that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
That businesses do that all the time.
Right. But to your point, if he doesn't have an LLC, right, or a like formalized business, how do you properly identify what is personal, what is business? Because I think most tournament directors, 95% of them, do not consider them running tournaments as business, right? I mean, it's an event that they run, but I know tournament directors who spend personal funds all the time, and they don't expect any kind of, it's not a business to them. And so I'm very interested to see how that's going to play out.
I mean, ultimately, I just hope that like he can get through it and come out on the other side.
And that everyone gets their money back.
Yeah.
At those two things.
Yeah. Which, like, if people get paid back in a year or two, then like, or maybe they're willing to say, keep it and, you know, we'll eat it. And like,
sure,
people will obviously have more scrutiny in the future, but like, people want to see this event succeed. And I don't think you should be dancing on this guy's grave. Like, I feel like people are like, you know, get a lawyer. Like, we're coming for, like, I mean, sure, you want to sue him for $150? You can. But like, this is just a situation in the sport right now. And to me, it speaks to the challenges of being a TD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The fact that like you could get this badly burned and be to the point where you can't even run this event because business has been so bad running tournaments this year. It's times have changed.
Yep.
And I think people need to like reevaluate how they think of what the market is compared to what we had in 2021, 2022. It's just not the same. We're going to talk more about that on the other side of this break. We'll be right back to talk state of disc golf and the industry. Stay with us. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Go check out the brand new custom Vagabond pack builder. You want a shoulder carry bag? They've got you. And so if you're looking for something even smaller than a Rufus, get yourself a Vagabond. And you don't have to rush. You don't have to be the first one to click. Stock Vagabonds, second drop, already sold out, but you can go get a custom pack built. You can get add-ons like a side pocket Velcro or an optional insulated insert. And you can customize the fabric, the zippers, the sliders, the cord, the webbing, the patch, all of it. So go to pounddiscgolf.com, check out the custom pack builders for any of your bag desires, and get yourself the best bag in the sport. Why spend more of your hard-earned money when you can get affordable, high-quality CBD straight from the farm? Today's show is sponsored by Sunset Lake CBD, a Vermont hemp farm creating CBD products designed to help you relax and decompress at the end of the day. They've got everything you need to kick back, available on their website. Smokables, edibles, hemp-derived THC, coffee, and even CBD for your pets. The best part is that Sunset Lake CBD will ship it directly from their farm to your door. That means fewer trips to the store and more time for relaxing and doing what you enjoy. I know for sure that I enjoyed the sleep gummies when I was traveling to and from Australia. I used them. They got the melatonin in them, plus the CBD. Really helped me avoid the jet lag. So when I was on the plane and I needed to sleep, I would take one. When I got there, first couple days, I would take one. Now, I try not to take melatonin every day, but when you need to get some high quality sleep, especially if you're traveling across time zones, it's the best. So check it out. You can save 20% on your order. Go to sunsetlakecbd.com. Use code UPSHOT at checkout, and you can save 20%. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont-grown. Welcome back to the Upshot. Josh, it's time for the PDGA Minute. Do you know what that is?
It's one where we check in with the PDGA every now and then. Yes. And it's
PDGA Minute once every 3 months.
I would say it's a reoccurring segment here on the podcast.
Finally got a chance to catch up. PDGA has kind of been a little sluggish on posting their board minutes, but we have the Spring Summit minutes and the June minutes up now, and hopefully we'll get July and August here pretty soon. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think the big stories are about the same. PDGA membership is down 5.4% year over year. That number has been around that mark, although I think it's going up a little bit. It was in like the 4.9-ish range, I think, earlier, and so slightly higher than that. But keep in mind, this is still more PDGA members signed up than in any other year at this point besides 2023. So it's like down off the highs, but it's not like plummeting.
Right. We didn't crash.
No.
Okay.
Like there's still more PDGA members than there were in 2022. So things are fine, but the PDGA did reorganize. They laid off a good number of people, mostly cutting from their media department because they're doing a lot less media work. I think with the growth of the DGPT, it's felt less necessary or important to have as many people on staff doing kind of reporting and media work. So that's been a notable change. I think there was one layoff at the director position, Brian Graham, who had been brought back in to do like membership stuff. I think he only got hired maybe 18 months ago. He's been laid off, and that they're like completely restructured the organization. So, you know, no one's been immune to this downturn, right? We've talked a lot about the Pro Tour layoffs, but the PDGA also laying people off. Josh, also a list of changes for 2025 that have been approved by the board. I do not believe these have been actually announced yet publicly.
Yeah.
But here we go. We'll go one at a time.
Before you hit it, before we jump off the finance part.
Yep.
Doug Bjerkes gave the PDGA financial update, restructure, and reserve policy in the June minutes, and he said that he projected a shortfall of $580,000 for 2024 if changes aren't made. You note the layoffs and the restructuring, but according to the minutes, the gain loss on payroll is expected to be net zero because the new reorganization. Well, I guess those are proposed changes that are coming, not the ones that have previously occurred. So, interesting to see the PDGA having to right size based on memberships when, you know, I think they may have misidentified where their emphasis should be in terms of organization, growth, and expansion during the good times.
I think it's hard to say. You know, did they grow too much too fast? Maybe, right? The fact that they've had to do some layoffs would suggest that. But on the other hand, like, I think they appropriately grew their staff. I mean, I think they've more than doubled in staff since the pandemic, which they needed to. Like they needed so much more support for membership, and they've done a lot of really good things, right? They've invested a lot in their technology team. They've invested a lot in support for TDs, right? You can just pick up the phone and call them.
Yes.
We've all seen the ad.
Yep.
And I think that stuff is really important and good. And, you know, even if you're projecting small growth or even a slight decline like they've had this year, the thing is that the decline is not just in memberships, right? It's also in signups. It's so that there's like less money coming in at events.
Right. I think the point that I would make and that I was trying to make, nonprofits often go through staff expansions and reductions when money is available, right? Not obviously, but by the nature of their name, nonprofits, right? Like they are oftentimes a little bit more dependent upon revenue cycles and cash flow, and create this kind of expansion and contraction, especially like when grant money is available in some cases, and grant funded positions are things. I mean, even at the city, we have grant funded positions that we explicitly hire for the duration of the grant, which would that be 2-5 years, whatever, right?
And when the grant money's gone,
your position is gone with it. Correct. I think what I would have liked to have seen is the PDGA, when seeing that growth, saying, okay, we don't know how like stable this growth is. So what is a project that we're going to accomplish in 2 years or in a year and in 18 months, and hire explicitly for that with a, hey, we're going to hire you for a 2-year project. There may not be this position in the 2 years, right? And to kind of give that little bit of foresight, knowing that they might have that kind of contraction, I think there was opportunity to do that rather than now what feels like a restructuring. And they note in this update by Doug Bjerkes that the staff restructuring moves away from departments and kind of specifies it more based on just the area in which they're working on, the project they're working on, rather than generic departments. And so it feels a little more reactive than what could have been more proactive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this seems to me like very reasonable house cleaning being done by Doug Bjerkes, coming into the organization and being like, does this structure even make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
And there have been some big changes. Point. Like some of the like higher up, like people who were like number 2, number 3, like they've kind of been moved down the org chart, and there's like different people leading the organization now. And that's Doug putting his imprint on how he wants to run the organization.
Great point.
So yeah, we'll see how things trend from here. All right, let's get into these board approved changes. These have already been approved.
Yes.
Number 1, player fees for A tiers, B tiers, and C tiers will be increased by $1. Okay. Fair enough. Number 2. This is going to be a controversial one. Temporary membership fees will increase from $10 to $15 in 2025.
That
50% increase. What do you think?
What are PDGA membership costs right now? I should have pulled this.
Oh, I want to say they're like $50, but I don't actually know what the specific number is.
Let's take a quick little look.
We're going to just drop in and take a look.
Yeah, let's say I want to join.
Amateur, $50.
Yep.
Junior, $30.
Let's assume amateur here, because if I'm paying a temporary membership, I'm probably not playing an MPO, right? So assuming amateur membership here, $50. It now is only going to take you 3 tournaments, and it is justified to go join the PDGA rather than.
I guarantee you that's the reason they're making this change.
That's exactly it, right?
They don't want you to want to pay the temporary one. They want to nudge you towards getting a full membership.
Before 5 events, you could play 5 events before the amateur membership became worth it.
Yep.
That's a lot of tournaments for some people.
But also, can't you only use these temp memberships at C tiers?
I can't remember. Can you?
I'm pretty sure you have to have a PDGA membership for B and up now.
Is it B and up? I remember there were those changes.
They've slowly moved that bar down and down and down. But I 100% that's the reason.
But that's it. That's it. Right there.
All right. This is a big one. New verbiage will be added to the membership sign up and renewal portal, letting members know that they need to opt in to receiving free printed and mailed copies of the PDGA magazine. Language will be used indicating that digital delivery is better for the environment, etc. The digital version of the magazine will be moved to the front page of pdga.com for easy access and more awareness. The beginning of the end of the printed PDGA magazine is here. This is stop one. 2026, it's going away. I bet I would put money on it. They're going to go only 10% of people opted in. We're killing this thing. But they're losing too much money on it.
I'm not kidding you. I am going to go find this like info on my membership, and I'm going to go cancel my membership to the magazine. Like
you don't want it.
No, I don't want it. It literally hits my house and I throw it in the garbage. Recycling. It goes in the recycling bin.
And how many people feel that way?
Oh, I remember I think it was the second or third edition. And it had like Presnell on it from winning Champions Cup, and we're like talking about getting ready for European Open.
Yeah, look, it's a legacy product that made sense 15 years ago.
Yes.
And has slowly become less and less relevant. And they're spending still, I'm sure, too much money paying editors, paying writers to write these articles that like really are just not a part of the zeitgeist or conversation anymore.
Yes.
And I can understand if you really want to say like, we want to keep a digital version of this, but this is a first step in cost cutting on this. And I think that it will come to an end, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to let stuff go.
The fall 2024 issue of the PDG magazine has Gannon Buhr on it from what I assume would be European Open, but we've already had Worlds. Like,
I hear you. Listen, I know.
And the, like you said, it is a legacy that the availability of news in disc golf is just, it's so quick on all the Reddit.
I think you can still pay people to write cool articles that you publish on your website. There's not like that doesn't, you're not losing the content.
Yes.
And you're going to get it to more people by putting it on the website.
Right.
And making that an emphasis rather than putting it in the magazine.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a very sensible change. Number 4, replace shipped international membership packages with an enhanced digital package. So if you buy yourself an international membership, you don't get your big package of goodies. But number 5, they're creating a new add-on option to allow international members to pay for a shipped international membership package.
Question. Can I also just sign up for the enhanced digital package? I don't want the package of goodies either. Sensible change.
They should do that.
They should.
Number 6, add sponsor a PDGA membership in a developing area add-on. So you can pay for somebody else's membership from, somewhere in Eastern Europe or something.
Listen, if that membership is discounted, like if I'm paying $15, then that's kind of cool, and I'd probably do it. If it's $50 and I have to pay, the double the price, that's.
I think it would be smart of them to make some sort of sliding scale option for people to chip in, even if they don't want to pay for a full membership. They can pay $5 and say like, "Hey, we want to support disc golf growth and like help people get donated memberships, basically in South America." But you shouldn't expect that people are going to be willing to pay $50. Like make multiple options available, and I do think people will do that. I
would pay 10. Give me the 10 option. Absolutely, yeah. I'd stick 10 on.
Yeah,
especially if I can say instead of my magazine, please give my $10 to a membership somewhere else. Yep, done.
Yep. Number 7 and the final one here: adjust pricing to eliminate shipping losses. So
shipping silly stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
there you go.
Their PDGA minute.
That's your PDGA minute.
Yeah.
All right. Back to what we teased before the break. Here's the thing, Josh. Disc golf is not just in its own little world, isolated from everything else, doing its own growth and contraction, separate from the rest of the universe. No. There are macro trends that have the potential to help or hurt disc golf. And it is no surprise to know that the entire outdoor industry and sporting goods industry had a huge boom coming out of COVID, just like disc golf. Now, the extent of that boom varied across disciplines, but like whether it was kayaking or pickleball or disc golf or you name it, there was growth for anything that was happening outside.
Yep.
And this has been a sort of a longer standing trend of increased participation in all things outdoors. So at the same time, guess what's happening, Josh, in the outdoor and sporting goods world right now?
Oh, I don't know, Charlie. Is there a contraction maybe?
You might think so, and you would be right. So we got some charts to show you and talk about here. And why don't we start with this one, which is just outdoor participation overall. And this is total outings and average outings per outdoor participant. Now, the number of outdoor participants has been steadily going up over time. And here's a chart that shows decreasing outdoor participation from 2012 to 2018, both in terms of how many total outings there were and the average number of outings per person. But then it started going back up in 2019 and reached new highs in 2021. However, we've since seen a slight decrease in total outings and a big drop in outings per participant. So people who go outside are going outside less post-COVID. The Outdoor Industry Association, which this chart comes from, basically makes the point that even though there are more total people going outside and doing things outdoors, the fact that there's this big drop off in how much people are going outside is perhaps an explanatory reason why retail sales are down in 2023 and in 2024 because of that same fact, which I think is a very similar story to disc golf, Josh.
SGB Media did an article on this study that we read and did a nice job summarizing a couple pieces of it. And one of the things that they point out in a clip that they pull is the contextualization between, and this is exactly what you're saying the data has, but they very explicitly label casual participants, those who, maybe only participate in an event 5 times in a year, and what they call core participants, who are the ones that participate the most frequently, right? Those are your weekly enthusiasts who go and do things or multiple times a week. And what their data is finding is that very few participants who are new to outdoor recreation are converted to core participants. So those players who came into disc golf, for example, and this is not specific to disc golf, but I think we can speak in disc golf terms because it very clearly illustrates what we're experiencing. People came over into disc golf from COVID. They played disc golf. And while they may still play disc golf, they play maybe 3 to 5 times a year. And they're never truly converted to core participants. When you talk about then the retail sales, that makes complete sense because your player who only plays 3 to 5 times a year, I play pickleball probably once every other week, maybe once a month. We have a set of paddles that we bought from Amazon for $35, right? I don't feel the need to go out and buy a new paddleball, racket paddle. I don't know what they're called even. I don't feel the need to purchase large quantities of balls or any other gear, right? Because I just don't play often enough. Same thing for disc golfers. Even if you have more disc golfers who are participating right now, if they are not being converted to core participants who are actively playing and competing regularly, then they're not as interested in the retail side of the sport as
they're simply not going to lose as many discs, buy as many discs.
They don't need a backpack full of them.
In wanting the newest frisbees.
Yep.
All of that. And I think 5% decline in PDGA membership shows you specifically the same exact thing, which is a decrease in core participation. Because I think having a PDGA membership is a pretty good indicator that you're a core participant.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, along with just a general sales decline across the entire outdoor industry, I thought this was interesting. This is, quote, independent outdoor specialty retailers. That sounds a lot like disc golf shops.
It sounds like disc golf shops. Right? Yeah.
Were hit hardest with a 9.7% average decline in sales in 2023, indicating that at least half of the shops had double-digit losses last year. This was driven by a 9.1% drop in units sold at slightly lower than average sales prices. So I think that the decline has been more pronounced for disc golf in 2024 as compared to last year. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a similar story, right? Volumes are down. And I would imagine that average sale prices are probably also down a little bit. Even though sales, like prices have gone up a lot since COVID, yep. I think that you were able to sell discs for just like nosebleed prices for a while because the supply and demand was so out of sync. But now that demand has fallen a lot, like, what are you going to do? You're going to put discs on sale.
Yep. It's going to be interesting to see like Black Friday sales and stuff this year.
Totally.
I think are going to be better than ever if you're looking to purchase discs. Well, there's something I wanted to transition then a little bit, Charlie, and the little bit further down in the study, the OIA talks about the kind of people who are participating in these activities.
Okay.
And not just casual versus competitive, but I thought was really interesting when looking at the actual demographics. And there's a pretty extensive diversity study here in terms of race and gender and participation in outdoor activities among different ethnic backgrounds as well as different gender breakups. And they say they kind of come to this conclusion. Efforts to better segment the outdoor participant base as it transitions to a more diverse, more casual base of participants will help the industry better understand participants who approach outdoor recreation with more relaxed attitudes and expectations. The traditional hardcore, high-frequency participants, who are most often male and white, hello disc golf, will make up a smaller share of the participant base year over year into the indefinite future. Efforts to build core participation in a more diverse market will be key to growing outdoor participation in depth as well as breadth.
This has got to be front of mind for disc golf industry participants.
Yep.
Manufacturers, Pro Tour, anybody who's running local tournaments. It is a vital piece of the long-term health of the sport to do a better job in this area. And I got another one for you, Josh. There was an article that caught my attention that got me thinking about all of this, really, in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. And it was talking about the increase in participation among women in golf, stick golf, of course. I got a chart for you in a second, but first let me just read this. Most of the increase in women's golf has been through off-course experiences, which includes driving ranges, simulators, and venues like Topgolf. In fact, beginning in 2022, off-course participation among women actually exceeded traditional golfing for the first time. So here's the chart, and you can see that on-course participation is pretty flat for most of the last 10 years, has started to tick up. And what's I think is particularly interesting about this is that
this is just female golf participation.
Just women's golf.
Yes.
Participation.
Yeah.
I think this is particularly interesting because the growth has actually popped off more in the last year or two as compared to like right after the pandemic.
Right.
So I think it's very interesting to see that this is happening, and there has to be some lessons in here for what disc golf could be thinking about. Now, we're not going to have Topgolf disc golf anytime soon.
No.
Topgolf itself is actually struggling a little bit.
Okay.
But we could talk about like things to think about there, but let me just read some other stuff. Obstacles remain to getting women out on the golf course. Although the female on-course golfer population in the U.S. is at an all-time high, it's still just 26%. The number in disc golf, by the way, is 7%. That's the PDGA membership number. Discussions on the Women Who Golf page, this is like a Facebook page or something, reflect players' joy, but also their concerns. Women post seeking player partners in their cities. They question why ladies' tees persist rather than tees based on handicaps. One even feared losing her regular golf buddy who said he had fallen in love with her, but that she didn't feel the same way. These are not exactly the same problems that disc golf has, but they are not completely off base either. Here's a quote, and I forget who this person is off the top of my head. I can go find it. But the quote is, "We want to make sure that women don't feel intimidated in taking the opportunity when invited, and then we want to make sure more people are getting invited." And those are critical elements for disc golf's growth, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say that the struggles are a little bit unique, but I don't know. It talks about ladies' tees and playing handicaps. I think of courses that aren't necessarily suited to a variety of players, right? And tee pads and basket positions that on courses that, because I think there was a real focus on trying to get bigger courses and that's just where the attention was. But, are we thinking and properly developing new courses for the women participants and female participants who are in a city? Like that should be a critical element when considering course development design. And so I think this article really cleanly encapsulates, as we talked about then, like that need to appeal to diversity. And when I think of like the participation on off-course events, I went to Wisconsin over the summer or the winter with a buddy, and in Madison they had a like really nice, it felt like a coffee shop when you walked in, and it had a restaurant, and then it just had golfing simulators, and there were nice comfortable chairs, and there was music, and it's not like kind of like loud, almost like arcade, like flashing lights, like Top Golf, right? Like the over the top. It was a very like comfortable and intimate setting where we went and spent, and it like took an hour and a half to play 18 holes for 4 of us on the simulator because it's just so much quicker. And that was a really great afternoon. We went and had lunch, played golf, took us 2 hours with everything, as opposed to 4.5 hours for a round. And like those kind of opportunities and participation events are critical in bringing in what are, as described by the OIA, casual, less competitive, who are focusing more on the recreation, less on the competition side. And the PDGA has to be thinking about that as well, right?
Yeah, obviously disc golf's not going to have the same commercial opportunities for that kind of thing, but putting leagues, having a disc golf basket at, or like a mini putter course, like there is at behind Bevel Brewery in Bend. Yeah. You could probably convince a local bar with an outdoor space to put a disc golf basket in outside. And that's the kind of thing that like is a really good way for people to kind of get a first taste of like throwing a disc at a basket. It's going to be in a social setting where you're just chilling. Oh, we could play bocce, we could play darts, we could throw putts.
Right. Yep.
And like, you're not going to be able to do full sims anytime soon, although I'm sure Tech Disc would love to figure out a way to make that commercialized. But that's not realistic. So I think, to me, it's got to be more about how do you make it so that it feels more welcoming to women to play disc golf? Because I think that's a big problem. I mean, my wife said to me the other day, it doesn't feel safe to go out by yourself and play disc golf or with your female friends. Because it's like you're in the, and of course that depends where you are and how busy your course is and whatnot. But like if you're playing on a public course in the woods, like I definitely understand the sentiment there.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and like my wife has gone with me to events and doubles and stuff, and she will often be there'll be 20 of us and she's the only female there. Right.
Like it's kind of a chicken or egg problem, right? Like you need to have more participation to make it feel like it's for everyone, but how do you get there?
Right.
And that's the kind of stuff that like everyone needs to be working on, right?
Yep.
It can't be a women's global event every 2 years. That's not enough. That's good. Don't get me wrong. But we need more than that. We need manufacturers to start caring about this.
Yep.
And I think they should, not out of some sense of, morality, but out of a sense of wanting to sell more Frisbees.
Spot on.
Okay.
Speaking of selling Frisbees.
Yeah.
We've got some data.
We got some data. I emailed Alan Barker, CEO of Infinite Discs, and asked for some numbers recently. Alan did mention to me that they've had a pretty significant sales slowdown since 2021 over there at Infinite Discs. He says, not sure how much of it is because the disc golf business is declining versus the increase in competition today. We were hoping that 2024 would level off for us, but we're still seeing year-over-year declines in sales numbers. So, I think it's a little bit of both. I do think that competition for online sales is more robust than it's ever been. And there are big, significant competitors to Infinite in a way that there weren't even like 5 years ago. Like, you can go to OTB and it's arguable that OTB is more of a brand name at this point than Infinite.
Depending on region, yeah. I think that's absolutely the case.
Yeah. Anyway, it's still a major retailer. They still sell a lot of Frisbees. And I asked for the sales mix of brands across their sales over the last 5 or 6 years, and he was kind enough to send it over. So let's put up this chart. Infinite Discs retail sales percentage. We'll start with this one that's just a stacked chart of all. This is not all of the manufacturers. There's a lot of small brands. Infinite, maybe more than anybody else, sells a ton of niche brands. But this is the big ones, right? So the criteria for inclusion was basically have at least a year of 5% market share on infinitediscs.com, to be clear.
Yep.
Or be Prodigy, because Prodigy is like a notable brand, more so than a lot of these smaller ones.
Prodigy never hit 5% market share.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
At infinitediscs.com.
At infinitediscs.com. Correct.
They're a Western Utah-based company.
Yep.
Prodigy is a Southeast-based company that does a lot of its sales in that part of the country. So it doesn't mean that they're only 2% of the overall market share in disc golf. This, again, is a snapshot of one large retailer. So take a look. Obviously, the interesting things here that stand out to me, Josh, Innova's overall decline in share.
Pretty significant.
And the big bump for Discraft, in 2019 and 2020 in particular, once they signed Paul and Paige, and the growth of MVP and Axiom, which started in sort of in earnest in 2022, but has since expanded from there.
James, Simon, Eagle,
Yep.
Progression. Yep. Yeah. Charlie, I asked you the question because it looks like MVP contracts just a little bit in the recent years, but you said that Alan gave some context to that.
Yeah, and I'll read what he said.
Okay.
MVP has a very strict minimum advertised price policy that prohibits us from ever putting their products on sale or even allow them to be used with discount codes. MVP's restock rate is also incredibly slow, so we are often completely out of stock of MVP products that would sell if they were in stock. Those are a few of the factors that lower the percentage of market share that they could be, again, at infinitediscs.com.
Right.
So MVP, by what I have heard this year, is still improving,
trending
and
up.
growing.
Wow.
In a down market.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Man. And to think.
But look at this, right? I mean, obviously, Josh, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Infinite, basically the only place you can buy Infinite Discs is through their website. So take that with a grain of salt. But MVP at infinitediscs.com is outselling everyone except Innova and Infinite.
Right.
That means bigger than Discraft. In total sales. And that is with the caveat that we just heard from Alan.
Right. how much money was the holy shot worth? Like,
they have just parlayed that. Right?
They have it, and that's they deserve all the credit in the world because they have just compounded from that moment. But that was it, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
That shot was it. That was the timing, the environment, the player he beat. Like, that is the reason MVP has done what they have done today.
100%. Because that, I think, showed them the power of high-end sponsorships. And then they have just been really savvy. Like, they've gone after the right players and made the right bids. And, you take a moment like that and you turn it into the most popular player on earth joining your team.
Yep.
And then you turn that into reuniting the Crush Boys. And we'll see how that all pans out long term. But MVP has gone from being a, fourth or fifth most important company to arguably being number 2 on earth right now behind Innova.
Yeah, you used to talk about like the top 2 of Innova and Discraft. And
it's a big 3 now.
It's a big 3. It really is. It has to be.
Just another chart here, just breaking out this same exact thing, but by each manufacturer. And you can really get a sense of the trends, right? Some of this to me is like, like Discraft's decline is just that the overall market has boomed so much that even though their share has, like, how much money they're making has probably gone up quite a bit
exactly.
in 2021, yes. 2022, yes. Their market share is going down. And the same could be said of Innova.
Right.
Who, we may look back and be like, Innova played their cards right during COVID. They didn't overexpand.
Yep.
They told Discmania, sorry, we're not prioritizing you anymore.
Yep.
And obviously
Innova was all you could buy.
Caused huge changes to the industry, and Discmania went their own way, and then they got acquired and all that. But Innova's market share has gone down, but they were from an unsustainably high level. When you think about the growth of the sport, you're naturally going to see a decline as a market leader like that.
Listen, this is all, again, and we've put this caveat. No one can come at us. This is infinitediscs.com sales. Put the call out here. If companies are unhappy with this representation, we would gladly share trends and figures that any company wants to send us.
Agreed.
So if OTB wants to get in on this, send us your numbers. We'd love to share your breakdown.
If I think trends are a lot more important than
agreed
specific numbers.
Yeah. So if you want to just share your percentage of change of growth, of revenue, of whatever you want to share, if you are a manufacturer and want a better picture for you, and you think you've got numbers to show it, we would be happy to share it on the show.
Yeah. I mean, I do think you look at Discmania Latitude DD, right? The kind of the big combo of the House of Discs.
Yep.
Not encouraging.
No. They have not expanded.
And they have been laying people off a lot. They really acquired into the peak.
Yeah.
And probably overpaid a lot. And, congratulations to selling at the top. If you're the head of Latitude, if you're UC from Discmania, Jeremy Rusko getting out of DD, they all got out at basically the best possible time.
Yep.
And now you have this new conglomerate that is maybe struggling to differentiate. And look at those charts. They're not good.
Right. Yeah. House of Discs, I think you're going to see some drastic changes in the next couple of years.
I mean, I honestly wonder what's going to happen. Are they going to collapse some of these brands down?
I think they should.
Is it too many? Should they just have, what is DD? Where's DD going to be at? I mean, there's the questions at DD have to be huge because the Ricky deal's coming to an end soon. That ends next year, right? End of 2025, I think.
I think that's right. And the other part to it, Castoplast, is a niche brand that's getting more popular. And while these others feel kind of stagnant, Castoplast feels like it's differentiated itself. Discmania feels like with its signing of Gannon, it's kind of made a splash recently. Yeah. You've got Kristen, obviously, who's holding up Latitude. But boy, what if Latitude didn't have Kristen?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of questions for what their overall strategy should be as like these individual brands at this larger company.
Yeah.
Like, you have to make some choices, perhaps. Like, there's still, Midwest brand value for DD.
Sure.
But, like, I don't know. It just feels like there's, like, a lot of options, similar molds, same plastic, obviously. How do you, West Side and Castoplast and,
right.
like, you have all of these brands. Like, are you really trying to make all those brands work? Or does it make sense to take popular West Side molds, for instance, and just be like, this is now a Latitude mold, and we're retiring the West Side brand.
Right. And honestly, why not do that with DD? Like,
that's a possibility.
All the trilogy and roll it under Latitude. And
I think if you go too much into one, I don't know. It's a hard thing.
I'm glad that we're not talking about these decisions having invested millions and millions of dollars into the company.
Tough, man. And the thing is, like, in the long run, it might be just fine.
Sure.
Like, as a combined portfolio, they are a major player. I don't know, like, if you sum it all up, like, where they are, but maybe you could say it's big four.
Maybe.
But with the dilution of these various brands, I don't know. Like, a savvy disc golf consumer knows that these are all being made by the same manufacturer. And you already have this tiering within brands with different types of plastic.
Right.
And like different mold types, right? These are beginner molds. These are expert molds. This is a beginner plastic. This is an expert plastic.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation. Anyway, please let us know your thoughts. Shoot us an email anytime, upshot@ultiworld.com. We love to hear from you. I actually have an email that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
I hope you saw this one, Josh.
Is this the one?
Yeah.
All right.
Donald emails.
Yeah.
And he said he was at the players' party for the 2024 Eugene Disc Golf Celebration. And he saw a guy there with a big red beard wearing a green and white striped shirt who he had never seen before. I'll start reading from the email. I casually asked him his name, Casey, and where he was from. And he said, Pocatello, Idaho. And here's the conversation. This is Donald. Awesome. You're from Pocatello. Have you ever run into Josh Mansfield? No. Who's that? He's the co-host of the Upshot podcast. He's also on the city council in Pocatello. Also plays disc golf there. Nope. Never heard of him. Sounds like he might be using an alias. No, he's a real guy. He's on the city council. He plays in local tournaments around Pocatello. Starts to Google you. Okay. Pull up your PDGA page. Casey says, yeah, I know a lot of people that play disc golf in Pocatello. I've never heard of anyone named Josh Mansfield. I'm telling you, man, he exists. He's in Pocatello. He's got a big red beard like you. He's on the city council. The city council, dude. As if that's like a selling point.
Right.
You've never heard of him? Oh, wait. I think I know him, but I think he goes by a different name.
Doesn't go by a different
What's
name.
going on, Josh? You need to come clean.
Yeah, you're right. Josh Mansfield's actually just my it's my stage name.
Do you know Casey?
I think I know which Casey this is. So Pocatello has like Pocatello's disc golf club. It runs events that are typically on Thursday night when I have city council, and then Sunday afternoons. And I actually spend more time in the Idaho Falls disc golf scene. Like, if you ask me who my friends are in disc golf.
Convenient lies from
If
Josh
you ask
Mansfield.
Idaho Falls, they'll tell you Pocatello, though. Yeah.
Should I even call you Josh Mansfield anymore?
I might be in witness protection.
If you're from Idaho, you need to email me and let me know. Upshot Old Joe, I need the proof, but Josh is going to make alias accounts.
So I think I knew who this Casey is. I really do spend more time in Idaho Falls than I do in Pocatello, but this email was great. I was dying.
Good stuff. All right. That is going to do it for today's show. We'll be back with you tomorrow with a preview of the Green Mountain Championships and whatever else might come to light in the news of disc golf. We appreciate you being with us. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you tomorrow about GMC and the Disc Golf Pro Tour playoffs. Talk to you then.